All right, guys, to dovetail off of what I've been talking about in the last couple of days from the live stream and Wednesday's video, I want to continue on with that and talk about what our kids are going through, or recognizing that they are stuck in the middle of this. Now, our children, unfortunately, are pawns in this process. We talked about that before, and I am pretty darn sure that you've actually witnessed this and had to deal with it, that they're stuck in the middle, and our exes have a tendency to use them in any way they can as surrogates or flying monkeys or an extension of their arm to add chaos and trauma into our daily environments. Now, you have to remember that their true feelings aren't necessarily being represented when they're being manipulated. And what I mean is that when they're giving you grief and they're lashing out, it can be really tempting to get caught up in that moment and respond probably in a negative way, basically yelling at them or having this heated discussion that can easily devolve into a screaming match, which is absolutely counterproductive. So the first thing you have to remember is they're constantly being manipulated by the other parent. It's either overtly or subtle. Probably it's more subtle, because if it's overt, the kids will see through it. There are a bunch of different ways they can do it. Unfortunately, our kids aren't going to tell us what's going on. So getting real firm validation, you're going to get it. You'll get it from different people, and different situations will come up which will validate it. But that little gut feeling that you have in the back of your, in the bottom of your gut that this is going on, you need to believe it, because it really is. And part of the reason I say that kind of goes back to the absolute thinking, and that you have to accept this reality so that you don't beat yourself up and start questioning it, right? Otherwise, you can turn around and you could think that what's happening is with our kids is because of a different reason, is because of some other issue. And the best way to detect that is look for genuine feelings that they normally have. And what I mean is let's say you go do something with your kids. In my example, I'll use the water river trip that we took, where I talked to you about my daughter lashing out at me for ruining or trying to ruin her trip and make it all complicated. So she had been manipulated to make it think, or make herself feel that I was just being complicated, that I was trying to add extra drama and stress into the environment and ruin her special event. She actually said that to me. So, and in one of the live streams the other day, I mentioned that that had happened and that she had apologized. So that right there, you can see that there's a trigger and a catalyst that starts it. So you know that the other parent isn't doing anything to try to calm it down, right? So for instance, and I don't know if this happened, but it would be really easy that if she was upset because, well, why am I, in this particular situation, why am I going to to her mom, why am I going to daddy's on Monday instead of Wednesday? And if the response is, well, I don't know, honey, your dad's just really making things really complicated, and I tried to talk to him about it, but he just won't talk to me. He's just, these are the demands that we have to go through, right? It sounds relatively benign, builds that anger that your child has against you, or that my daughter has against me, and she lashed out. Then she, and the thing is like a day later, she realized that she had overstepped her bounds, and I didn't fall for the trap, right? So whenever she was basically, screaming at me over text, demanding that I call her to talk to her on the phone right now, and I wouldn't, and I remained calm. I mean, I did get irritated, but I didn't do anything to lash out to her. The next day, she had calmed down. Whenever she came back on that Monday and we had something to do, we had a great time. She was happy. She got along with Debbie. They were a little nervous because we weren't telling them what was going on. We're playing this secret game that I was telling you about. And that, but it turned out great, right? I mean, I got some great pictures with everyone happy. They had a really good time. We went to dinner afterwards. Then after that, we hung out at the river, just sitting along benches. My youngest was playing in the mud, and collecting twigs. My middle daughter was talking to her friend that she was going to get to see the following week, and everybody was happy, right? And when we went home and drove home that night, everything was fine. That's what I'm talking about. That was a genuine moment. There was no influence from the ex. They were caught up in the moment. They were having a good time. There was no animosity towards anyone. They weren't upset about Debbie being there, and that situation, right? So it's critically important, and I know it's tough, but it's critically important that you take a step back when you're going through this, and you slow, like I said the other day, you slow yourself down. You calm yourself down and look at the bigger picture of what's going on. It is so easy to get caught up in the moment because there's so many emotions that are going on. You're angry at your kids for being a surrogate. You're angry at your ex for even creating this situation. That's just for that particular thing. Then as you're going through that, you're going to be angry that you're in the financial situation. You're going to be angry in whatever they're doing to lash out at you and all the extra problems. You're going to be angry at the court documents if you're in the middle of court. I mean, all that stuff, it builds up to to make it like a pressure cooker situation. And bottom line is, you can't take the bait. Don't take the bait and fall for the trap, because it is a trap. Because if you allow yourself to get triggered and to get angry and to ultimately lash out at your kids, what you're doing is you're validating that little crap that they're saying. Like in my situation, whenever the ex, in my opinion, was pushing this whole agenda that I was being demanding and that I was, creating all kinds of problems and trying to make it complicated. My daughter was falling into it. I mean, I was getting those communications sounded exactly like her mom. And as before all this stuff happened, there were videos where I was talking about some of the different conversations we had where she was saying the exact same thing. And because we're stuck in a situation that we can't share everything, I couldn't tell them that why we were doing things and why we were having plans, because then I would have to tell them that there was plans. Now, I did say in the email that I had sent to the ex, and I think you guys saw in that live stream, I went over that we had plans, that it was, okay, no problem. I can accommodate this. I can move my plans around. So there was a reason. But see, that wasn't shared with my daughter. And I'd actually asked her about that at one point. I'm like, well, you saw the one email. Did you see the other email? Did you see the email where I said, sure, we can make this happen? I'm just going to move what I had planned for that Monday and Tuesday to the previous or to the earlier Monday and Tuesday. And she hadn't, right? Because it was cherry-picked information to try to make the situation as complicated and complex as possible. And guys, that's really the key on this. All of their actions are subtle manipulations to try to create that chaos, to try to drive a wedge. And if we fall for it, it just gets progressively worse. And I did that myself. I mean, there were a lot of times in the beginning when this was happening and I was frustrated and I was scared and I was, in the back of my mind, I was like, oh my God, she's going to get full custody, and all these little things that the kids are telling her that they're, that she's embellishing is going to, that everyone's going to believe it. They'll believe the smear campaign. They'll think I'm a danger to the kids. They'll, they won't let me see them. They'll let her move out of state, all that stuff. And none of it happened, right? But I was so scared and I was so anxious about that it clouded my judgment. That fear clouded my judgment, and I was interacting with my kids in a way that wasn't providing them a calm, safe, stable environment. It was just more chaos. And every time I did anything that validated what their mom was trying to say, it just made them think, oh, okay, so it's daddy, daddy's the bad guy here and mommy's the good guy, right? So when these things are going on, and they will, you have to keep all of that in mind. Now, granted, if you're getting zero good times with your kids, you're not seeing those genuine moments, then in my opinion, that means you need to work harder to try to keep things stable. You have to make sure that you create a stable environment for them that's not all punishment, right? That's the other thing I've talked about in the past, where if you're dealing with a situation and transition days or whatever. You don't want to get in. The other part of this trap is getting in it to where you're constantly disciplining your kids for everything. You have to make sure that there's good moments just between you and the kids to where you got, whatever it is, that you guys are able to build those so there's some positive moments. Your ex is going to do everything in their power to keep your situation in as much chaos, stress, and anxiety as possible, and to push every button they can. And if they are able to do it and you fall for that trap, then your kids are going to feel that stress and that anxiety, and they're going to equate that to your situation and being with you. It's not easy, but it's the best way to fight this and defend against this. It doesn't mean you let your kids walk all over you. You have to have boundaries, but there has to be a balance. You have to have a balance so that you can have some structure, but you can still have good times. It is critically important that you're able to do that. So on that, if you want to talk about how you're dealing with that and how it's happening, you can do that in the comments below. If you want to move that over to the forum on the website, then just head over to dadsurvivingdivorce.com and click on the forum and sign up for that. We're starting to get some traction on that. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe, and I will chat with you guys in the next video. So take care. Bye.